And I'm live. It's the Nazarite, bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. And hopefully, maybe I'll have one or two of you joining me. It's still somewhat early in the day. Let's get it on. This week's Torah portion, Metzora, deals with cleanliness and uncleanliness, continuing the theme from last week. Many times in different years with different calendars, or the Hebrew calendar, this Torah portion and the one before it, Tazria, are read as one. This time, for different reasons, it was set apart. So it deals with cleanliness and uncleanliness, continuing what happened last week, where we were talking about biblical leprosy of the skin, the clothing, the hair, and things of that nature. And in this week, we learn how someone who suffers from biblical leprosy becomes pure, how the unclean become clean, as far as the leper is concerned. And it's a long ritual, or it's not long, but one part I want to focus on is that one offering which the leper brings are two doves. One is killed, the other is set free. I think this is a one-of-a-kind sacrifice. The other one that I can think of has to do with Yom Kippur, the holiday of atonement, where a beast, or rather an animal, is set free, but it's not so much set free, it's more pushed to its death. So, not the same thing. This bird, this dove, is actually set free. And there's a teaching here. The leper, for different reasons, becomes unclean, has this skin disease. And it's on him to repent, right? To return to his former self. Whatever caused this inadequacy, which manifested physically as biblical leprosy, it's something that can be amended and will be amended. And after the time spent alone, since the leper sits outside, since he is unclean, he is outside of the camp, and or the city gates, right? And it's time for him to come back. So how do you come back into society after being shunned for, be it a week or a day or a month or a year or 50 years? How do you come back from that? It's like you did something wrong, and you paid a price for that. And now you want to re-enter society, to go back to yourself. And one of the ways of doing that is to take those two doves. One is slaughtered to represent the past, and one is set free to represent the future. But the future is not simply set free. Before being set free, the second dove, the one that lives, is dipped in water and the blood of the first dove. It's as if the dove that is being freed, which symbolizes the future and future conduct and righteousness, that path is tainted with holy water and with the blood of and with the sacrificial blood. That's a very deep idea. It's a very deep idea, and I wouldn't presume to get through it in one video. And I think I'll stop there. The idea of killing the dove, spilling its blood, and then dipping part of that living dove inside of the blood and setting it free, that's a very deep idea. I'll leave it at that. The second idea, which is also deep as far as I'm concerned, the second idea I want to speak of is that of treasure, not exactly being where you were looking, or that's saying too much. Let me just tell you what I was thinking. So in this Torah portion, the second thing that I want to talk about is the leprosy of a house, a building, a home, a dwelling. Not only can biblical leprosy affect the human skin, clothing, and hair, it can also be in a house, physically, something that goes wrong with the bricks of a house. Someone who thinks something may be funky with the house calls the priest. Now, when this comes to pass in the Torah portion, God doesn't say, should it happen? It's written in the original Hebrew as if it will happen. That's a given. Take it into consideration that when you go to the land which I promised your forefathers, there will be a plague on certain homes, a plague of leprosy on the home. In that case, the homeowner calls the priest investigates, and if necessary, they break the bricks apart, the tainted bricks, and they redo them. They rebuild. And it's this wonderful teaching. Rashi brings it, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki. He says that in the Midrash, the older teachings, they say that the people who dwelled in the land of Israel before it became the land of Israel, when it was the land of those nations, they hid treasures in their home. And a person would break the bricks apart and smash a wall in his house in order to cure it of the leprosy, and he would find the treasure. Which again, take it allegorically, take it practically. Literally. However you want to take it, the idea of you needing to break something apart in order to reach the treasure that's inside. The whole idea of shedding layers, burning off karma on the way to the treasure, on the way to dharma, on the way to that which you could not have otherwise known. Why else would somebody break something apart? He thinks it's tainted, so he does it, but he finds, it's more than he bargained for. So yes, breaking things apart, finding the treasure. I think I went through this in this recent winter that we are now coming out of. I went through a mild depression because of this relocation. Mild, very mild, but it was still a depression. And I'm feeling now with spring, which is springing all around me here in the Netherlands. I was sitting in a field of flowers today. It was in the middle of a road, right? But it was a long strip. Anyway, spring, which has sprung, so to speak, is filling me with good energies and good vibes. And I'm looking towards the future. I'm looking towards the bird that I set free. That's carrying whatever it was that I had to burn off in the past. It's carrying it in some way because it's the future is what I make of it. I think that's the deal with the bird being dipped in there and set free. That's just something that I think it sits right. Maybe, maybe not. Those are the two ideas I had to speak of. And I think that I'm going to say good Shabbos. Let's have a wonderful weekend. God bless. I know I didn't touch on things that I did want that I thought maybe I'll do in this video, but I don't want to make it too long. Let's rest.